So it's important to remember that endings serve a purpose. They mean we will eventually thrive in something else. Saying no to something is inviting the opportunity to say yes to something.
Welcome to the Leadership Currency Podcast, the podcast dedicated to helping leaders be free from the nonsense that keeps them from being their best self, centered around discussions about leadership development through the lens of ancient truth and timeless wisdom. And now your host, Dr. Doug McKinley.
Hello, my name is Doug McKinley, and welcome back, hopefully, to the Leadership Currency Podcast. We intend to free leaders from the nonsense that hold them back from being their best self. You know, things like the curse of comparison, the lack of confidence, and the crippling cost of fear. Today, this podcast, the intention is for it to be posted towards the end of the year, and it's been quite a year, and so I've appropriately named this Necessary Endings. And necessary endings is a psychological twist on the idea of letting go. So the question that I'll start us all with is, what is present in your life today that is not in line with what you want for tomorrow? And today, metaphorically or literally, is 2022. 2023 is right upon us. Or if you're listening to this the following year, we're ending one year and we're starting another. So I would strongly encourage all of us, including myself, to let go of whatever doesn't need to continue from 2022 or this year into the next year. And the basic principle is, like it or not, endings are necessary, whether at work, in business, or even in our personal life. At some time or another, we all hit a wall, or we hit a place where it just doesn't make sense anymore. We're facing the end and there's nothing to be done. Ironically, our culture, especially the Western culture, tends to have a discordant relationship with ending. We don't like to end things. We're almost psychological hoarders, and we want to keep things. So it's a universal experience, and especially I think in the Western culture, and it can be very distracting. So it's important to remember that endings serve a purpose. They mean we will eventually thrive in something else. Saying no to something is inviting the opportunity to say yes to something. And so in this way, I'm implying that some things need to end. It's a necessary part of life. Dr. Henry Cloud is an author, just a mentor of mine from a distance. I've only met him just at workshops, and it's just he's a beautiful thinker. And he wrote a book called The Necessary Endings, so a lot of the inspiration has come from his work. Some key quotes from his book that I'm going to just read, kind of get the spirit of what I'm trying to talk about, and then I'll outline what his research has brought up. And when I say research, I mean his study of the topic. So again, quote, "Everything I have that is of value has come from being willing to end something that I was doing and go to the next step." End quote. Wow. Everything I have that's of value has come from being willing to end something I was doing and go to the next step. Just take a minute and think about this year and all the things that have brought fruitfulness into your life. They probably came from saying no to something prior to that. Is there anything that needs to be let go of? Next quote, there's 4 of these, so this is the second one. "This is a fundamental truth about endings. You have to be able to face losing some things you might want in order to be free to do the right thing. If you can't, you'll be stuck." End quote. I was recently doing a workshop and working on values, and I was helping a group of people work through their highest values, and we used Brene Brown's research and her work and even her worksheet on the values, and I asked them to narrow it down to 15. And I walked around the room and watched these people struggle trying to figure out how can they keep everything. And one of them actually used the word I just mentioned. He said, "I'm a values hoarder." He goes, I don't want to have to choose. And that's normal, but it's not how real life works, right? It's not. We have to make tough choices all the time. So if you find yourself stuck, it might be because you have to face something that you need to let go of. The third one, quote, in the absence of real objective reasons to think that more time is going to help, it's probably time for some type of necessary ending. In the absence of real objective reasons to think that more time is going to fix this thing, help it, it's probably time for some type of necessary ending. We'll talk specifically about some examples of that one. And then the last one, quote, they make the concept of endings a normal occurrence and a normal part of business and life, so you expect and look for them instead of seeing them as a problem. I highly recommend that. I think I use it on vacations. I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, that when I go on vacation, which I did recently, before I leave, I using the power of intention, I decide that however long I'm going on vacation is going to be enough. And so I prepare for the ending of the vacation before I start, so that I'm filled. I'm filled and I'm not left longing or wanting and regretting coming back. So it's one example. So the key concepts, there's 3 of them. Very simple. Sometimes, he uses the gardening metaphor in the book, but sometimes there's just too many. Whatever it is, too many. We're growing too fast and too much. Sometimes things are not sick, or they're well, but that relationship between sick and well can create problems. And some things are just dead. And so we're gonna talk through those 3 things, and then let you just marinate on this idea as you whatever drew you to the title of this podcast, whatever drew you into this conversation, allow you to marinate on it and understand what is something that might need to end in your life that has a natural ending for it and continue. So the first one is too many. I get this. I think this concept is a real problem for high achievers. You've heard the saying before, just because you can doesn't mean you should. People that have lots of talent and competency and energy think, they just want to do everything. And so they just fill their life with productivity and achievement. And sometimes it's just too much. Too much is just too much. Eventually, you're going to truncate your best self. You're going to dilute the best parts of you. And the good things will be choked out by other work that's better work, or vice versa. Better work will be choked out by good work. The question that you have to ask yourself here is, how much is enough? And my mentor in this area is Lynn Twist, and I've talked about her before, and she just simply says, you can't get enough of what you don't really need. And so too many of whatever it is, you fill in the blank, can be counterproductive to you as a person, as a vessel to accomplish your mission, whatever your assignment is in life. All right, so that's the first one. The second one is sick and well. So in corporations, we call this top grading. We see that there are times in every organization where we need to identify people that are just not fully engaged, and top grading I'm not a fan of per se. I like the intentionality of assessment, but I think the methodology of literally top grading, I think if I recall, the actual methodology is you just, whatever the bottom 10% of your workforce is, you just routinely turn them over. And I think there should be a little more subjectivity to that and nuance, and certainly as it relates to the priorities and the mission of your organization. Another application is what I would call psychological tolerations. There are some things that you're tolerating in your life that are causing you to be sick, and so they're creating a not well environment around you. So it could be people, it could be friendships. I hope it's not. I hope it's not your most close relationships, but it could be, and that causes toxicity. And toxicity happens when we value, too much over the things that are most important to us. So the idea here is what's important right now needs to take priority. This was lived out very epically around the the coronavirus. We had to be very clear about what's important now. We had to rally and do what was necessary, and a lot of priorities got shifted in order to take care of the sick. And so it's a very painful process to look at the tapestry of your life and identify sick areas. I'm using air quotes, areas that are not optimally functioning, areas that are not thriving, they're actually wilting. And so as you think about this, what are those things? What are those things that are not well? And then the last thing, there are some things that are they're finished, they're dead, right, in your life. I've had many conversations with people like around this topic. Sometimes the most common one in my first career was the idea of a divorce. People would come to me and they would say, when do you know that like the marriage is really done? Like how do you sort out the ethics of that? And what a complicated question, right? So it's a very challenging thing, and people have been addressed with this forever, and it's still a very tough thing to do. It's a tough thing to end a marriage. It's a tough thing to end a relationship in any form, because we just have a discordant relationship with ending things. So it's a real thing. At work, it would be more. The analogy would be stretched into letting go of an employee. Maybe somebody that's worked for your organization for 20 years, and you've had a good run, but it's just things are different or whatever, something's changed, and you've got to make that decision. It's painful. Let's just be honest. But if it's not there anymore, if it no longer serves the purpose, or if it's dead and it's just not producing fruit, some things need to end. And sometimes I've heard leaders tell me this, that they've let people go and the people have thanked them because they couldn't do it themselves because of their needs for security and stability in their life. So it can be a beautiful thing if you embrace the concept of necessary endings. Ending friendships, things. It can also go a different direction. It can be maybe a bad habit that you have that needs to end. I mean, I've talked to people that they are just chronic procrastinators. That needs to end. We need to step into our intentions and activate the areas of our life that are most important to us. And the easy ones are eating and exercise. That's the easy ones. Even simple things like picking up the phone and calling a college friend, or checking on one of your teammates that are struggling with something in their family. And you just have this chronic habit of prioritizing the urgent over the important. And so it could be self-limiting beliefs. We did a podcast on that recently, just looking at what are the belief systems that are holding us back from being our best self. Many different things. So there's a book out there called "What Got You Here Won't Get You There," and I think it really is a great way to kind of sum this up. And the intention of this book is to say the successes you've had in life to this time aren't necessarily the pattern for success that's going to take you into the future. And so as you move into this next year, as you look at it, just realize there's gonna need to be pivots. There's going to be need to things you got to let go so that you can be successful in the new way of thinking, the new opportunities, the new structures and paradigms through which we will all. 2022 was a historic year. A lot of new things surfaced that we all are addressing. Actually, the last 2 or 3 years have been. So what got you to this point in your pattern of success it probably won't be what will get you to next year. And so what got you through this year probably is not the best pattern for what's going to get you through this coming year. So I'm just encouraging you to take a look at this, examine it in your life, think about what needs to end, what needs to let go of. And here's 3 questions, right? What am I trying to achieve and why? That's the big question. But the 3 diagnostic questions are, what is good but not best? What is good but it's not best? The second diagnostic question is, what is sick and not getting better? What's broken that's not repairable? And the third question is, what is long since dead? So I'll just close with this thought. This is a short podcast. I just want to wish you a happy next thing. In this case, a happy new year. If you're listening to this in any calendar way. But for you, it might be the next thing you're going to. So endings are hard, but they are necessary.
Hey, thanks for joining us today. If this podcast was encouraging, motivating, or provoking in useful ways, would you be willing to share it with someone you know who might need to hear this conversation? A review on your favorite podcast service is also always appreciated. And we'll see you next time.